Hello and welcome to another episode of Marketing Research in Action, where we take all of the research we do here at Marketing Sherpa, we talk to an industry expert such as McLab's Executive Director Brian Carroll, and we show how you can use it to improve your performance in your own job. So Brian, if you're not familiar, is the author of Lead Generation for the Complex Sale. We were talking last night. I was really impressed by some of the people that have read and endorsed his book. He mentioned Philip Kotler, and I got to say my jaw dropped, Brian, when you mentioned that, so that's very impressive. What we're going to be talking about today and looking at is research from the Marketing Sherpa B2B Marketing Benchmark Report, as well as the Marketing Sherpa Email Marketing Benchmark Report. And so Brian, let me ask you about our first chart here, because it's a little disheartening. It's saying that 65% of B2B marketers have not established lead nurturing. I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah, they haven't. And what I was surprised when I saw that too, especially when this is data that was just collected from our last benchmark report. I thought that things would improve. And the fact is that for most marketers, we're really good at acquiring names and figuring out which names are valuable. But when it comes to building that relationship, so what happens if someone is a right fit for the right company? How do we progress them? And that's something as marketers, what we've done is we thought that's salespeople's responsibility. And but the truth is that most salespeople, 80% of marketing generated leads get lost, ignored, or discarded, and that's why there's this process of nurturing that marketers need to embrace, because if they don't, the sales team doesn't have time to build relationships with people who aren't ready to talk to them yet.
So you know what it reminds me of is that one friend you have that you never hear from until they need something, right?
Exactly, yeah. And that's really the truth. So what we're forcing our salespeople to do is without having a nurturing process in place, they've been taught sales follow-up skills. And so good sales follow-up is setting up a next action time and calling, but the challenge for a salesperson is, what do I say? How do I keep the conversation going? So what they do is they say, I'm just calling to follow up, I'm just calling to check in. And really from a customer's point of view, it's like hearing from that friend that just needs something from us, and that's when we hear from them is, the customer here is, are you ready to buy yet? And that's nurturing is really about addressing and how do we progress the relationships so we're adding value with each touch. So it's really this idea of progressing someone from interest more into purchase consideration. So when they're ready to engage our sales team or our channel, that's what it's trying to answer.
Yeah, so if customers came to us because they have a pain point or want a solution,
yes,
why not start helping them with that?
Yes.
Not wait till they, come on, sign the check, and then we'll start talking. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yes, yes. And so, and really quick, let's define what lead nurturing is. It's about having a meaningful and continuous dialogue with viable potential customers regardless of their timing to buy.
So the downside is 65% aren't doing lead nurturing, and
right,
that's unfortunate. But let's zoom in a little and look at some of our email marketing benchmark report data and take a look at some of the companies that do have customer lifecycle campaigns. So you can look at the top. One of the top things they're doing is nurturing and developing relationships.
Yes.
74%. That's pretty exciting, and we should be happy for that. But they're almost having the companies that do have the customer lifecycle campaigns almost have the flip side of the problem,
yes,
right? So they are nurturing and developing those relationships beforehand, but what's happening after the sale, Brian?
Well, that's a huge opportunity for us, is that post-sale, ultimately the purpose of marketing isn't just to acquire customer relationships, it's to grow them. And so as you think of your average customer value and improving lifetime value, there's a huge opportunity here post-event to take this nurturing concept and how do we progress. And so the thing is that most of the time there's very limited amount of customer service. A friend of mine coined a phrase called drive-by selling. And so that's really where I think there's a huge opportunity as you look at how do we not only activate, but how do we complete post-sales transactions, and what can our emails do to nurture and build that dialogue afterwards. So big opportunity after the sale, and that's something a lot of marketers are really focused more on the front end of the process.
Yeah, only 43% focused on completing the post-sales transactions, but let's take a look at some more data from that benchmark report. And as you'll clearly see, one of the most effective things marketers are telling us they're doing is those post-sale transaction emails. While they're using it less, those marketers that do it is clearly very effective for them.
Yes, yep, that's exactly it. And what we're seeing is that post-sales transactions are really the one of the most effective things that marketers can do to move the sales needle. So that's why that's up here at the top of the at the top of this bubble graph, the size of the bubble, it shows marketers are using these because as you look at the bar chart here earlier that we showed, you see that there's a pretty equal balance. But in terms of effectiveness, if I were a marketer, I would be focusing on here at the end of the process, how can I build on these customer relationships up here? Then the next opportunity, what we're seeing in terms of effectiveness, is really looking at retaining customers and actually activating increasing sales. And what our research has shown us is that people who have recently bought from us, we've already built trust for that first dialogue. How do we build on that to help serve them more? And then we finally get into nurturing, and that's actually on the effectiveness scale, that's third. But it's a huge opportunity when you see how few marketers are actually doing this, that this is something we can embrace and actually begin moving more people from that early stage more to the later stages so we can build upon and grow those customer relationships. In other words, the goal with nurturing is not just always be closing or always be selling, it's really always be helping, and that's really the theme of nurturing.
I like that. I heard in a sales organization I used to work in, everyone sells, everybody sells, so now I'm going to change it to everybody helps, and I like that too.
Yes.
So thanks a lot. What I learned today is, before the sale, don't be that friend who's never there to pick up the phone and call or send an email and say hi and just always ask for a favor. And definitely, after you get that favor, don't be the friend that just disappears.
Exactly, that's it.
Thanks a lot for joining us, Brian. And you can learn a lot more about our research as well as read free case studies and how-to articles on marketingsherpa.com.